Reggie the Retriever by Greg Lewis. They told Tom the big black lab's name was Reggie as he looked at him lying in his pen. Tom had only been in the area for 6 months, but everywhere he went in the small college town, people were welcoming and open. But something was still missing as he attempted to settle into his new life, and he thought a dog couldn't hurt. At first he thought the shelter had misjudged him in giving up Reggie and his things, which consisted of a dog pad, bag of toys, almost all of which were brand new tennis balls, his dishes, and a sealed letter from his previous owner. See, Reggie and Tom didn't really hit it off when they got home. They struggled for 2 weeks, which is how long the shelter said to give him to adjust to his new home. Maybe it was the fact that Tom was trying to adjust too. For some reason, his stuff, except for the tennis balls, he wouldn't go anywhere without 2 stuffed in his mouth, got tossed in with all of Tom's other unpacked boxes. Tom tried the normal commands the shelter told him he knew, ones like sit, stay, come, and heel, and Reggie would follow them, when he felt like it. He never really seemed to listen when his name was called. When he was asked again, you could almost see him sigh and then grudgingly obey. The relationship just wasn't working. Reggie chewed a couple shoes and some unpacked boxes. Tom was a little too stern with him, and he resented it. The friction got so bad that Tom couldn't wait for the 2 weeks to be up, and when it was, he was in full-on search mode for his cell phone amid all of his unpacked stuff. Finally, he found it, but before he could punch up the shelter's number, he also found Reggie's pad and other toys from the shelter. Tom tossed the pad in Reggie's direction, and he sniffed it and wagged, some of the most enthusiasm that he'd shown since arriving at his new home. But then Tom called, "Hey Reggie, you like that? Come here and I'll give you a treat." Instead, he sort of glanced in his direction, maybe glared is more accurate, and then gave a discontented sigh and flopped down, with little to no interest. Well, that's not going to do it either, Tom thought, and he punched the shelter phone number. But he hung up when he saw the sealed envelope. It had been completely forgotten and ignored until now. "Okay, Reggie." Tom said out loud, "Let's see if your previous owner has any advice." The note was addressed to whomever gets my dog. Well, I can't say that I'm happy you're reading this. A letter I told the shelter could only be opened by Reggie's new owner. I'm not even happy writing it. My last visit with my dog was when I dropped him at the shelter. He knew something was different. I had packed up his pad and toys before and set them by the back door before a trip, but this time, it's like he knew something was wrong, and something was wrong, which is why I had to try and make it right. So let me tell you about my lab in the hopes that it will help you bond with him and he with you. First, he loves tennis balls. The more the merrier. Sometimes I think he's part squirrel, the way he hoards them. He usually always has 2 in his mouth, and he tries to get a 3rd in there. Hasn't done it yet. Doesn't matter where you throw them, he'll bound after it. So be careful. Really don't do it by any roads. I made that mistake once, and it almost cost him dearly. He knows ball and food and bone and treat like nobody's business. I trained Reggie with small food treats. Nothing opens his ears like little pieces of hot dog. His feeding schedule is twice a day, once about 7 in the morning and again at 6 in the evening. Regular store-bought stuff. The shelter has the brand. He's up on his shots. Call the clinic on 9th Street and update his info with yours. They'll make sure to send you reminders for when he's due. Be forewarned, Reggie hates the vet. Good luck getting him in the car. I don't know how he knows when it's time to go to the vet, but he knows. Finally, give him some time. I've never been married, so it's only been Reggie and me for his whole life. He's gone everywhere with me, so please include him on your daily car rides if you can. He sits well in the back seat, and he doesn't bark or complain. He just loves to be around people, and me most especially. This means that this transition is going to be hard, with him going to live with someone new. And that's why I need to share one more bit of info with you. His name's not Reggie. I don't know what made me do it, but when I dropped him off at the shelter, I told him his name was Reggie. He's a smart dog. He'll get used to it and will respond to it. Of that I have no doubt. but I just couldn't bear to give them his real name. For me to do that, it seemed so final that handing him over to the shelter was as good as me admitting that I'd never see him again. And if I end up coming back, getting him, and tearing up this letter, it means everything's fine. But if someone else is reading it, well, it means that his new owner should know his real name. It'll help you bond with him. Who knows? Maybe you'll even notice a change in his demeanor if he's been giving you problems. His real name is Tank, because that's what I drive. Again, if you're reading this and you're from the area, maybe my name has been on the news. I told the shelter that they couldn't make Reggie available for adoption until they received word from my company commander. See, my parents are gone. I have no siblings, no one I could have left Tank with. And it was my only real request to the Army upon my deployment to Iraq, that they make one phone call to the shelter in the event to tell them that Tank could be put up for adoption. Luckily, my colonel is a dog guy too, and he knew where my platoon was headed. He said he'd do it personally, and if you're reading this, then he made good on his word. Well, this letter is getting too downright depressing, even though, frankly, I'm just writing it for my dog. I couldn't imagine if I was writing it for a wife and kids and family. But still, Tank has been my family for the last 6 years, almost as long as the Army has been my family. And now I hope and pray that you make him part of your family, and that he will adjust and come to love you the same way he loved me. That unconditional love from a dog is what I took with me to Iraq as an inspiration to do something selfless, to protect innocent people from those who would do terrible things. If I had to give up Tank in order to do it, I am glad to have done so. He was my example of service and of love. I hope I honored him by my service to my country and comrades. All right, that's enough. I deploy this evening, and I have to drop this letter off at the shelter. Tom folded the letter and slipped it back in the envelope. Sure, he had heard of Paul Mallory. Everyone in town knew him, even new people. Local kid, killed in Iraq a few months ago, and posthumously being awarded the Silver Star because he gave his life to save 3 buddies. Flags had been at half-mast all summer. He leaned forward in his chair, rested his elbows on his knees, and said quietly, "Hey, Tank." The dog's head whipped up, his ears cocked, and his eyes bright. "Come here, boy." He was instantly on his feet, his nails clicking on the hardwood floor. He sat in front of me, his head tilted, searching for the name he hadn't heard in months. "Tank," Tom whispered. His tail swished. He kept whispering his name over and over, and each time his ears lowered, his eyes softened, and his posture relaxed, as a wave of contentment just seemed to flood him. Tom stroked his ears, rubbed his shoulders, buried his face into his scruff, and hugged him. "It's me now, Tank, just me and you. Your old pal gave you to me." Tank reached up and licked his cheek. "So what do you say we play some ball?" His ears perked again. "Yeah, ball? You like that? Ball?" Tank tore from Tom's hands and disappeared in the next room. And when he came back, he had 3 tennis balls in his mouth. Thank you.